I rarely come out here anymore. It got old pretty quick. Still, it lingers on my mind daily for the sheer boldness of it. It started in my imagination one day at the office. I was 36, pondering retirement, having made so much asteroid mining, my personnel balance outweighed that of the 67 United States, without an idea what to do with it. And keep in mind, this was at a time when I stood alone in this regard, a monopolistic tycoon with truly unquantifiable holdings. Having few true acumen aside from business and applied physics, nor the desire to spend the rest of my life further inflating an intangible symbol of my freedom of choice. So came the time for leisure, in a form I couldn't possibly hoard. A gift to myself, accessible to all, and excluding only the disinterested. A place, a cube, stretching 3 miles into the Saharan sky, made of solid, unreinforced Roman concrete, uniform in all dimensions aside from the 20-foot wide staircase zigzagging up the western face. I never visited during construction as to not rob myself of the visage of a structure so absolute, and when it was finally completed, standing in front of it meant standing miles away, an aspect I was never fully able to remedy. Luckily, by this time, I was a more content man and gave it little effort regardless. By no means could I have prepared to look down one of the sheer cliff faces. Originally, I planned to install a concrete guard along the perimeter wall, but I felt that would defeat the purpose of its simplicity. Guests would just have to govern their balance if they wanted the best view. Though, admittedly, I scooted towards it practically on my stomach the first time, having a fear of heights, funny enough. I owned the plot of land around it, roughly the size of Rhode Island, as to keep whatever it becomes from being determined by some equity firm, popping up resorts and charging people for different aspects of it. At first, it was visited by the 2 million new inhabitants of Tripoli. They were waiting for it to be completed and made public. It was a bit of a disaster, to be honest. The Astaf regime had ample time to improve infrastructure surrounding my plot while the construction was underway, especially considering the project supersaturated their economy. But hey, these are the bureaucratic trivialities I retired to ignore in the first place. My job was done. Musicians, performers, athletes, politicians, and religious leaders all made their appearances. Some held small concerts on top of the world. Others made sermons proclaiming this be the will of some divine being, whether evil or good. There were, too, the climbers. Holding off the 90-degree edge by one hand, this inevitably saw 2 people fall to their deaths within the first 6 days of it being open. Many condemning me for the decision of another person to hang off a cliff, demanding I add safety rails or hire guards to regulate the conduct of its visitors, turning me into a nanny and the structure a business. Also were the offers no other man could refuse to acquire some part of the surface to set up fast food restaurants, retail stores, housing. I never even responded to these. Before 6 months were out, the upper half of the east face was fully adorned in every style and color of graffiti and art the world knew. Some pieces the size of football fields, grand murals that took teams of dozens rappelling down the sheer face. And within a week, all of that work would be defaced by some contemporary knucklehead drawing a slice of pizza or outline of SpongeBob over it. Thus began the bickering between artists and institutions over what action they could take to ensure their arrangement of color would grace its facade in perpetuity. Many trying to argue through lawyers they had some claim to the area they scribbled on. These, of course, were immediately dismissed by the governing Astaf regime, who in this regard were aligned in my interest of keeping it a living canvas. This theme would continue for some years, every 2-bit conman, corporation, and sovereign nation chomping at the bit to acquire some chunk of this inert concrete block. The latter-day Commonwealth, after being refused, began bombing campaign on the staircase, sending 2 or 3 people a week to deposit backpacks and guitar cases filled with explosives, rendering it temporarily inaccessible. This problem resolved itself as the Argentinian prefect's son was fatally injured on camera, prompting a swift napalm campaign over Salt Lake City. Within 3 weeks, the LDC had not only ceased their attacks on the staircase, but lost much of their now fragmented espionage network. If someone does wish to use the surface to host some large sporting event or concert, they usually have to hire their own security force or participants come to an overwhelming consensus that this part will be used for this thing at this time. The men's U.S. Open tried to host a few qualifying matches on the 3rd year, neglecting to account for the overwhelming and unregulated crowd. But we can talk about this more another day. Right now, I have business.